Welcome back to In Ohio Country Today. I'm Denver Davis at our annual Risk Management Seminar. With me today is Jon Scheve with Superior Feed Ingredients, and he's going to talk to us today a little bit about marketing and where he thinks it's headed. Jon, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. It's great to be here. I grew up on a farm in Beatrice, Nebraska, which is south of Lincoln, Nebraska, and after graduating from the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, I ended up a couple different jobs across Omaha, Lincoln, and then ended up in Minneapolis, where I've been for the last 17 years, and been working as a feed ingredient and grain trading merchandiser. And basically that's buying and selling commodities from farmers or from feed mills and elevators, and then delivering it to other end users across the country, whether that's a feed mill or feed yard or an ethanol plant. And so for the past 15 years, I've been working with farmers, helping them be a personal grain merchandiser. And what that entails is helping them establish the basis and figuring out, how to use options and futures for their account, but mostly it's about trying to capture the carry, use our grain bins efficiently, and see how we can set basis and hopefully gain a premium for them on their grain.
So the capture and the carry and things like that, you're talking about doing that on your farm.
Mm-hmm. I do it on my farm, and it's what every farmer can become, because every grain elevator does the same thing, and if you have storage on your farm, why not do what all the big grain elevators do? It makes a nice return on your investment, and so I try to help farmers make a little extra on the end, because that's what all the big grain companies and all the big grain elevators do, make a little money storing grain.
All right, what are we going to talk about tonight, Jon?
What I like to do is talk to farmers about what they should be focusing on in the markets. There's so many things that you can focus on all the time, but at the same time it can get kind of confusing because you can get information overload. And so what I try to do is I tell farmers what I focus on my farm, and I'm going to go into showing where's the crop grown in South America. They're our biggest competitors. What should we focus on when the USDA has a report? What are the important things that the report will focus on? When do they change during the year? And then I like to focus on when does the highs usually occur, because that's what everybody wants to know. When's the high going to occur? We talk about the timings during the year that can happen, and focus on when the lows occur. And at the same time, I'll give some marketing tips about how you can focus more attention to just little aspects that might be able to bring out 30, 40 extra cents during the course of a year. And in a year like this, when prices are certainly not favorable, an extra 30, 40 cents could be the difference between breaking even or making a profit.
Why don't you give us a little recap of what you saw in 23, Jon?
It's a transition year, a lot like 2013 was. We came out of a very dry situation. We ended up in the middle of summer where we weren't real sure if it was going to be wet or dry. And so what you're seeing is a crop that ended up being made. We didn't know how good those rains could be in a timely manner. We didn't get a lot of rain. I'm out in Nebraska. We probably got something like 5 inches of rain between Memorial Day and Labor Day, and yet we produced a normal crop. And so what we're learning is it doesn't take a lot. It takes it at the right time. And so I think what we're learning from that is we have plenty of grain. Prices do need to go back down to spur demand, and from 2013 to 2019 things weren't real pleasant. They were just kind of very even keel years. They weren't great, they weren't bad. We just have to get ready for the old normal to come back.
And so in the old normal, when you talk about that, this is how your strategy can help farmers add that extra profit.
It certainly can. My strategies usually work really good in sideways and down markets. I usually miss the opportunities on when it flies high and goes up to the stratosphere, but at the same time, it's about being consistent over time. The worst strategy in the world will work 20% of the time, and the best strategy in the world is only going to work 70% of the time. So it just depends what kind of farmer you are and what kind of strategy you like, and to be consistent and over time you should be okay is usually what I find. So I try to share with people, here's what works most of the time and what should over time make you the most. It's not normally what farmers do, but sometimes just having a presentation that shows you how to think differently can help you down the road do better.
Before we wrap this up, John, are there any distinctions that you can make in markets even across the Midwest? You know, from Ohio to Indiana, all the way out to Nebraska. The market is different in each state?
The market is different, but it's also the same. And I know that that's contradictory, but what I always find interesting is Ohio, because I work with farmers from Fargo to Jackson, Mississippi to Columbus, Ohio, and all the way out to central Nebraska. And the thing that farmers are always concerned about is the basis. And they're like, oh, I don't have good basis or I have bad basis. Well, in Ohio, you have some of the best basis in the country. But the problem is your land values are higher because of that. Farmers in North Dakota are like, oh, my basis is horrible, it's minus 70. But your land is half the price of what it is in Ohio, and it could be the same type of yields. So in that respect, basis will represent what the land values are. The other important thing, and I think this is incredibly interesting, is that the last farmers to get done planting in the entire United States are Columbus, Ohio. The Fargo farmers will get done before everybody else. Everywhere in the country gets done. I always have a bet with all the farmers I work with across the country of who's going to be the last done. I guarantee it's going to be somewhere between Toledo, Ohio, and Columbus every year, and I have not lost in 15 years on those bets.
Hey, thanks for joining us tonight, John. And for more information, where can people find you?
Superiorfeed.com is our website, and you can click on links to talk about grain marketing if you want, and it'll reach me. And if not, they definitely can reach out to you and get connections back to me as well through that way, whichever way is easier for them.